tired of wasting time on entertainment that doesn't bring you a sense of community? Do you feel like people are trying to force you to take a side in this silly culture war? Does your media have you feeling too conservative, too woke, too religious, too heathenish, not enough whatever, like a freak? That's because you're not a caricature. You're a real person. You're messy, and you don't fit into a box. Good news, we're freaks too.
Would you like to melt your stress away? Get connected to a community of other misfits? Maybe listen to the Misfits? Stop feeling like a lonely outsider surrounded by people trying to enlist you in a war you want no part of. Become a contented member of a community that requires only that you live your best life and leave others to live theirs.
Feel a sense of belonging while opting out of the culture war. This is Peace Freaks.
All right, welcome everyone to episode number, was it 103 of Peace Freaks?
Yeah,
Can you believe we made it this far?
I can, because we keep on going.
We'll keep doing it?
Yep.
Okay, I'll take your word on that one. I keep showing up in the house, so I guess we keep doing it.
Yeah, there you go.
I live here.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been an interesting one. Allow me to vent, since I have a way to vent.
Okay.
So Irma was supposed to be going to spend next week and a half with her grandparents. Grandma's out of school for the summer, and, just said, hey, we'd love to spend some time with her because, it's been, months since I've seen her.
Right.
With everything going on. And had everything planned out. I was going to go meet them in the Erie today, right about when we should probably be meeting them about the time that we're actually recording this right now.
Probably, yeah.
And then this morning I get a message saying, no go. We'll call later. And so eventually they call me, and I find out that the reason that Irma can't see her grandparents is that, this dastardly virus.
Mm-hmm.
And over the course of it, apparently Ohio is a hot spot.
So there you go.
And so New York State, mandates, quarantines. If you spend more than 24 hours with anyone from a hot spot. We could meet up for a day, Liz.
Mm-hmm.
And then that wouldn't make any difference legally.
Right.
He's not allowed to spend more than a 24-hour period.
Yep, there you go. That makes
Because,
all the sense.
yeah, so it was not exactly an ecstatic day for me because now Irma doesn't get to see her grandparents. She was very excited about seeing Grandma and Grandpa. And, stupid fucking government people have gotten in the way of it. And the reason that they're in the way of it is because people don't fucking pay attention and don't understand anything. And it's very, very frustrating.
Yeah.
And immediately after I got off the phone with that, I was listening to Andrew and Amy on Portman's show argue about masks.
Right.
And her account of history is so incredibly flawed that it just made me want to punch holes in everything. And I had to not finish the episode
See.
because I'm just that ticked off. What am I to do? What am I going to do other than be angry? Lots of angry.
I mean, I suppose as long as you can do that and still do the life you need to do. Yeah, that's about all you can do about it at the moment. It's frustrating for sure.
Well, on the positive, we paid off our car payment this week.
Yes, that is a victory, and thank God for that.
And in the next 4 months, we're snowballing the payments from that into another one of our consolidation loans that we got.
Yep.
And that'll be paid off in either October or November.
So moving towards freedom one way or another.
Yeah, well, right now, freedom means unyoking myself from all of my previous debts.
Yes.
And
I think that is a very valid definition for most people. So
yes.
yeah.
On the positive, we're taking some old luggage, and we've now made a traveling raised bed garden of sorts.
Yeah. We should really take a picture of that and put it up somewhere because it's
I did take a picture of it and share it in the
ridiculous.
The Homesteads and Homeschools Keybase group.
Ridiculous and delightful all together, rolled into one.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, if we ever have to leave, we don't even have to pack up the dirt that we've been, enriching. We just fucking close up the top of the luggage and leave, which I particularly like as an idea.
I think it looks fun and it's recycling and, so many reasons to not argue with that.
Oh, good Lord. So, on top of that, what else is going on in the world of the garden, Liz? Things are starting to look big and starting to produce stuff, which I like. It feels like we're doing something valuable.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Keep getting kale out. Like I had to. So I started like 100 kale starts back in March or something. Very little hope of them actually becoming anything because they were these sad little spindly things. This was before I discovered winter sowing, which I'm very much hoping is going to make our, starts next year actual starts instead of, these tiny little things. But they have actually.
Well, let's be clear. So when I first came upon Liz and the way she was doing this, she was literally pulling all of the root system out of the dirt.
Yeah.
And then just kind of like putting root system into new dirt.
Yeah, I was. That's true.
Which you just don't do.
Yeah. I mean, I can't argue with you there. That's probably not the way to do it. But they did grow. It took them a while, but they did actually grow to the point now that I pulled out like 10 or 12 little, like basically the size the starts should have been when we put them out, little kale plants. And there are a bunch of them out there that are actual, presentable kale plants. So I just thinned them out and we can eat those now and we'll have some kale to eat later. It'll be great.
It actually doing something is awesome as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. There's some therapy in there somewhere.
And I went and I cut up our old frame for our pop-up tent, a canopy, and
so like you were literally taking the bones of the crushed musical equipment and building something with it.
There's a lot of stuff that I used in my old music career in the garden. I will admit that.
So
a fair amount of it.
Yeah, there you go.
So we have a fun and interesting episode this week. We had a conversation with a friend of mine we've been trying to get on for ages and managed to finally schedule it.
Yeah, man.
My good buddy Shawn. And he's going to tell us a little bit about his new podcast because his old podcast is over. And it was a fun conversation.
For sure.
So let's hear this first song, and then I guess we get into it.
Should have known my life would explode to my life. Should have known you rattle my bones when I held you tight. Should have known your heart's a quiet tongue compared to your pride. I should have known you were dynamite. You got a red for a redhead once, a redhead for always. You knocked me out, never threw a punch since May. I've been in a daze. Call me a pyro, but I need you bad air. I need you back steady. The bonds holding us are stronger than us. Nothing will separate you from me. Put out like sweet tender steel.
Welcome, Mr. Sanders here to Peace Freqs. How are we doing this week?
I am waking up. How about you, man?
I don't know that I'm even bothering waking up. We're just gonna do this with me asleep. That seems like what we're gonna have to do. We were terrible. Like I was telling you earlier, I fixed a couch from the kid like breaking all the springs, jumping on it, and apparently it was just too comfortable once I fixed it, and just
There you go.
like it was way down at the bottom of a sleep hole. And then like I shot up like, what? I got that thing due this morning. What time is it? Isn't it too late? And then I saw that you had been on the Facebook saying, yeah, I'm in the Google meeting room. And I'm like, we don't even use Google. How do I fix all of these things going wrong?
I haven't even had caffeine yet. What the hell is going on?
Right.
You ain't lying. You ain't lying. But we in the end, we ended up here, ready to interview.
Yes. Hooray.
Liz is the only one of us that is awake then. You know what that means, Liz? I think that means you're carrying the interview today.
Okay. What are we talking about?
We're talking about Shawn.
Okay. Well then, how about you tell us about yourself, Shawn?
Wow, that's a very boring story. No,
Okay. Well, you can punch it up. I don't know.
we'll try to punch it up. I think I met you guys.
Car crashes always help. That's what I've been told.
Oh God.
Yeah, met you guys. I produce a podcast. It was Porcupine Perspective. Now it just changed to Point of Descent as of last week. Live in Kansas. Relatively new to the Liberty movement, not like some of you old timers. And other than that, just honestly trying to spread a message, trying to educate, trying to shake people loose from this paradigm that I had for the longest time that the state is legitimate, force is legitimate, and all that other crap.
Right on. I love your show, by the way. I listen to it all the time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My co-host carries it. It's really her that does it all.
Okay, well, there you go.
She's a charming person I like to disagree with. I'm often thinking to myself, look, I get it. You feel the need to be a statist because it feels normal. And I'm sorry, but you're wrong.
Well, it's actually one of the reasons I brought her on. I originally had another co-host a while back, and we were very similarly minded on many things, but it doesn't make for a good show. But being able to have someone that is a little bit closer to your average listener's views,
Sure.
I think to me makes things a lot more interesting because they have a tendency of siding with her more often than they do with me.
Mm-hmm.
You had a podcast before this one. That's how I first discovered you, and then that kind of dissolved or something.
Yeah, it was the Pissed Off Porcupine. That was an individual at work that I converted. He was one of my first conversions to Liberty, and I'd never even really listened to a podcast. And he came up to me and was like, "Hey, man, dude, we got to spread the message. Let's get this going." And we started it up. He taught me quite a bit, and honestly, as you guys probably well know, this stuff kind of weighs pretty heavily on you after a while. Yeah. And he went his own way doing a sports and comedy podcast. And then I kind of went my way with continuing on.
Interesting.
Right on. Yeah, it can be a tough road to hoe sometimes because it is a long-term trajectory to actual liberty, if you believe it's possible to get there at all. So
I hope it is.
Well,
yeah, no, that's my hope too. So,
well, you, if I remember correctly, you also are one of those people that had all of the scales of authority fall off.
All at one time. Yeah, I guess I should have mentioned that. Back in 2016 is where all this kind of fell into place. And I've got a friend to thank for all this. It was right before Trump got elected, and she was a extreme leftist and a Wiccan of all things. So in my mind,
oh wow,
I've got a person that's very accepting of alternative views. And she made a post one day. It's like, if you're not going to support Hillary, go ahead and remove me from your friends list. And we see this stuff all the time, but
sure.
To me, that was kind of a shakeup that, we truly have this either or mentality as humans. And if someone that is so accepting of so many alternative views can't even accept someone having a different view, something's wrong here. And at that point, of course, you start questioning authority. You find yourself into libertarianism, and then eventually where I'm at now as an anarchist. But the way I usually equate it, it's kind of like finding an old box of toys in the attic that you used to play with kids. And when you were a kid, I should say, you're going through the box and you're just throwing all this junk away. And the very last thing in the box was religion. And I just kind of tossed it aside. I really couldn't see a reason to submit to even that authority, especially considering what I knew about the Bible and all that stuff.
Yeah, getting into the history of the Bible is what does it for you.
It does. And I grew up Mormon. I don't know if you guys knew that. Like,
I didn't know you. God, what is it with you fucking Mormons? There's so many of you guys in this movement. Is there really that many Mormons in the world? Like, yeah. So prior to libertarianism, I'd met one Mormon person in my entire life, and now like they're just crawling out of the woodwork everywhere. I don't know, understand it. Like I can name 5 or 6 people that either are Mormons or have been Mormon, and it's weird.
Yeah. Not that it's. I mean, I don't take it as a negative thing. It's just
I don't either. It's just interesting.
the correlation between people in the liberty movement now and people who gotten out of Mormonism is interesting.
I mean, is it just a religion that people want to run away to freedom from?
I would say so. What's interesting about the religion is, and don't get me wrong, I'm not here to pick a fight with any Mormon or Christian or any other, but it's very strict. I grew up not even being able to drink caffeine for the love of God. And when you were taught Mormonism as you were growing up, you're being taught an alternative view of Christianity.
Yeah.
We've still got the Bible, you've still got Old Testament, New Testament, but you've got these additional books and these additional stories that you've got to swallow. And they try to make it make sense. And there's some questions that I feel that the Mormons answer better than the Christians do.
Oh, wow.
Like, for instance, what happens to someone that dies and was not baptized? But I guess the more layers of lies that are added on, the more likely it is to fall like a Jenga tower. So I think a lot of us fall very quickly.
What's interesting is the episode we recorded yesterday with Hugh the abolitionist was almost entirely about his faith and his Christianity. And so I finally got another atheist back on the show. Didn't take long, Liz. Sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, like I said, I appreciate being able to have conversations, between people from all the angles. And it was interesting with him because he's very firm in his beliefs in the Bible and everything. And I believe, but I'm not entirely sure like what category I want to put myself in. And Nick's very firmly, an atheist. And so it was actually.
We say that. I mean, I'm completely open. It's just if I ask myself the honest question, do I believe? I don't. So.
Yeah, more agnostic, I guess. Yeah. So it was interesting realizing that there were really three viewpoints represented there, and
I just think agnostic is a wishy-washy answer.
Right.
So until something shows itself to me, then I'm an atheist.
My co-host is the same way. She believes that, and I don't want to put words in her mouth without her here to correct me or hit me, but she believes that something started everything, not that it has any particular desires for how you live your life or even knows that we're here, but there was some creative force that kind of got the Big Bang going, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I mean, and that doesn't that probably rings truer than anything I've read in the fucking Bible. Like,
I hope so. I hope the Bible's not true.
I think a lot of the Bible is just it's man trying to make sense of being the way that they can, which is thinking of things as themselves. Like I said, when you get into like the anthropological history of the Bible, it becomes the scales fall away pretty quick because you're like I said, for me, the final straw was the story of the virgin birth, which is not unique to Christianity. And finding out that wasn't unique to Christianity really was like, well, even that story is not from. They borrowed everything. Then what the hell's the point?
Yeah, and then overlaid it onto existing pagan holidays that were. Yeah,
well, that's all part of it being overtaken by the
Romans,
the politics, the political structure,
okay.
Which is one of the things I was talking to. So I've always joked with Liz because Christians don't consider Catholics Christian,
right?
Which is how I was raised.
Well, the particular type of Christian I was raised in, not all of them. I'm sure there's probably some who do.
Trust me, I've seen more people say no than yes, Liz, because I've talked to other Christians about it.
Yeah.
And what was interesting to me was that, so they don't consider it Christian, but it's literally the original Christianity. But that's only if you look at it in like the main scheme of things. Protestantism broke off of Catholicism.
Right.
Because after the church kind of took over the pre-existing Christianity there. One of the things that was interesting to talk to Q about was that essentially he's a Baptist, like of a an independent Baptist church, as he put it. But he actually treats it as if like we're of the Christianity prior to the church. Like we worship the same way that the Christians prior to Rome taking over worship. That's our thing. And so like they have a very different way of looking at things. Because I've always thought of, it's all of the different Protestant religions as being, subsidiary, so to speak. They're part of the net timeline of the breakoff. And he's kind of like, well, that's not how I would look at it for us. Like, we're just going back to the original teachings of the church and stuff. And I'm like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's something I would have thought about otherwise.
No more living in a boxcar, and I've got a mobile home. Every night I get down on my knees to pray. This old rambling's getting harder every day. This old rambling's getting harder every day. I can't find a way to leave, but I don't want to stay. The tracks are old and the trains have gone away. This old rambling's getting harder every day. Well, I remember when I had a 5-piece band, 100 different honky-tonks, a countless one-night stand. I had too much fun, now
Hey everyone, Jake here, host of the Tasting Anarchy podcast. Join my co-host Mason and I each week as we explore the world of wine and alcohol through a Liberty lens. You can find us on all your major podcatchers, tastinganarchy.com, or Tasting Anarchy on Twitter. Tasting Anarchy, your wine and liberty podcast. Find out how much government is in your drink.
I think religion is an interesting conversation to have. I personally love the conversation, even if it's not what I believe. Most probably because it isn't what I believe. I'm always fascinated by people who believe other shit, unless they're statists, in which case, and the only reason.
I mean, that's a religion in and of itself. I know.
Well, yeah, it is.
And that's what's remarkable to me is the overlay between the two. You know, I look at people, I come from a strong right background, especially being Mormon and being from the South. And man, I engage with people all the time. And I'm sorry?
Are you from Kansas?
No, God, no.
Oh, okay.
I'm from Mississippi.
Okay, I was going to say, Kansas is in the South, wow. Is it? I don't know how this works.
No, I'm from a little town that didn't even have a hospital big enough for me to be born in.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
So I grew up way, 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 way south where, yeah, you probably hear a lot of it in my recordings. My co-host really enjoys making fun of the way that I talk.
Aw.
Well, but the way you talk, I've never attributed to being a regional dialect, though. Like, the way you talk like you talk. I don't, and I think it's probably because you're so quiet. You're so deliberate about what you say. And I don't know, maybe that's because you're cognizant of like a natural speech pattern, but I've never picked it up. Like, it sounds like Shawn to me.
I tried to cover it. When I moved from Mississippi, we moved to Indiana, and immediately people keyed in on the fact that I had that accent and, well, you must be unintelligent. I mean, we all do it. When you talk about a stupid hick, you pick up a Southern accent to extenuate the fact that those people are really dumb.
Yeah.
Well, and you don't have, by the way, you don't have anything to do with it. Like your brain actually does that. I've done stuff. Read the research on the linguistic side of that. People think Southern sounds stupid, and now, granted, it also has some other things that they think it tends to sound charming, but in the same vein, like, doesn't matter how retarded you are. If you speak in a British accent, you immediately sound smart to Americans. Like, it's if you want to, like, basically, if you want to have the perfect voice for radio and TV, you're born in New York, like the actual upstate New York or Ohio, because there are a few of the places. And by the way, you can't even go to Pennsylvania because Pennsylvania starts picking up an accent already. But when you're from like Ohio and New York, you have basically an undialected form of American English everywhere.
I did not know that.
It's weird. Like, it's kind of like the American equivalent of like just neutral. It's unaffected. Now, mind you, if you go to Pittsburgh, they have a whole different fucking language. So, you ever heard of a gum band or some jumbo?
No.
Well, listen, yins need to get up and need to listen here, okay? If you didn't know yins is a word,
right?
Which you Southern folks would probably just use y'all instead.
Yes.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Listen, yins need to pay attention. Gum band is a Pittsburgh word for a rubber band, and jumbo is the word for ring baloney.
Just specific. Oh, like in Texas, it's Coke. Everything's Coke.
It's just
So bologna's all jumbo.
Yep.
Okay, that's interesting.
Like, go get a jumbo sandwich, and if you said that to any person outside of fucking Pittsburgh, like, what the hell is jumbo?
Yeah, I'm expecting a very large sandwich, and I'm going to be disappointed.
Right.
I don't know, man. Their sandwiches are pretty big. Probably wouldn't be disappointed in size. I mean, you know.
I don't know if I'd be happy with that much bologna for sure.
There is that.
I don't know if you've ever had good ring bologna. It's good, but you know, it's not usually what you're getting.
Have you ever watched this stuff being made on YouTube?
That is not a search I would intentionally put.
I tend to find it's best not to watch any of your food being made.
Yeah, with bologna especially, you will never look at it the same again. I assure you.
Just all the tits and assholes just fucking jammed in there, ground up, pasted.
Well, it's more the consistency. It looks like something that would come up after a long night of drinking.
Oh, okay.
And it's all liquid and thick, and it goes into those containers, and then it gels up into its final shape.
Have you watched them make chicken nuggets?
Yeah, that is also unsettling. Yeah.
No, but it's probably similar.
It's just that you grind everything up into a paste and then squeeze out the pink paste. But it's not going to stop me from eating chicken nuggets. I'll tell you that fucking much. Those things are delicious. I'm going to be honest, Liz. I want some chicken nuggets right now when we get out this interview.
Yeah. Okay. I hear you.
So why don't you tell us a little bit more about the new show as opposed to the old show? Because we're looking towards the future, boss.
One of the big changes, and I've talked about it a couple times, at least on there, it seems like, when I started the political side, and it's still political, but when we were doing Porcupine Perspective, we talked a lot about topical stuff, but it seemed like it fit into one of 8 or 9 categories. It's either the state's screwing you over, the police are beating the shit out of you, here's some new stupid law, they're spying on you. And there's only so many different ways you can rehash the same story with different actors.
Sure.
It's like some shitty sitcom.
Well, I'd say
with
rehash it until
friends.
they get the fucking message, but to each their own.
Exactly. But it got to the point that we weren't able to produce as many shows because like, well, shit, we've already done this. It was called this. Damn, we've already done this. And
Okay.
the goal was to bring in a third party. He's going to be helping us. A friend of mine named Cole. He and I started a atheist and philosophy podcast about the same time I started the other one to kind of delve into the stuff that we couldn't do on Perspective.
Okay.
Well, I decided that it would be a good idea maybe to bring both of those together and then search out anyone or any particular stance that is a dissenting opinion, whether it be a flat earther, whether it be someone that believes that in the lizard people.
Is that really a dissenting opinion anymore? I feel like Hillary Clinton proved that was accurate.
Not for everyone. Some people are still with her.
There's still some stragglers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like they're the dissenting opinion at this point. Hillary's proof positive that lizards are fucking real.
And that could be. Some of that stuff is out there. But yeah, that was the main goal, was just to have some other topics to talk about.
When are you doing the aliens episode?
I don't know yet. I've got a friend of mine that runs Skinwalker Radio,
Ooh.
and it's
Okay.
another podcast.
Fun.
And he is here local, and he's branched from Skinwalker to interviewing ex-military that have had experience with UFOs or other phenomenon.
Oh, wow.
So hopefully we'll have him on before long.
Because that's my trigger. It's like the thing that really scares me in life.
Aliens.
Oh, yeah. Do you ever watch the movie The Fourth Kind? It's like the most terrifying movie ever produced in my world.
I just
I haven't watched it.
did not find it credulous at all, so it didn't really bother me. But I mean, yeah, if you could buy into the concept, I could see how it would be very unsettling, because it's the idea of seeing something and realizing it's not what you saw, or like that.
I've watched the reptilians in my apartment, okay? I watched...
I hear you. Or like that. What was that Doctor Who bit where there's like the alien that you see them and then you immediately forget they exist? Has anybody?
Yeah,
You guys know what I'm talking about?
the
The silence, is it?
probably, I think that's what it is. You watch Doctor Who at all?
No, I don't watch Doctor Who at all. My co-host could probably have told you, but not me.
You're lost. Up until like the bitch took over.
Well, yeah. I mean, which I don't really blame Jodie for that as much as like the whole thing just kind of,
Oh, I mean, I blame her for being a shitty doctor.
it was a conglomeration of bad things. But
They should have chose fucking what's her name?
Olivia Colman, it would have been infinitely better. But
Yes, she would have been a great doctor, and they fucked up.
she was making movies about queens and stuff.
I don't give a shit. She should have been the doctor.
She would have been better. I agree.
Fuck her career. You would make a good doctor. You should have done
Oh,
it.
jeez.
And they were in the same. It's funny because they chose what's her name because she was on Broadchurch with the dude who took over the show running, and Olivia Colman was on there too.
Yeah, she was.
So they just,
Broadchurch was amazing.
I'm pretty sure they did it just to piss off fans.
I don't know. David Tennant was in
Yeah.
Broadchurch too. I mean, I feel like we're going off. the
Sorry,
rails
I'm just.
here.
You're passionate. It's okay.
We were talking about Skinwalker Radio. Yes, that's where we were.
So people with dissenting ideas. What is the thing that you're really excited to talk about on that show that it wouldn't have made sense on this one? Yeah, like a topic more than anything. Like this is the one reason I changed over.
I think bringing in the science of belief, talking about religion and walking away from any religions, whether it be the religion of the state or any of the beliefs that people hold true,
Okay.
but mainly beliefs in the supernatural, I think.
Interesting.
Do you think that is something that humans are capable of? So I'm really beginning to wonder.
Capable of,
Walking away from any belief in in things you can't explain, because it seems like people who walk away from religion, they either end up believing in politics or science,
mhm.
and that becomes their new like religion, stand-in. So I just wonder, are there people out there who literally don't believe in anything?
Nihilists.
I would hope so. Go ahead, Nick.
Well, no, because you want to believe in nothing to the point up until you become a nihilist and actually believe in nothing.
Oh, right.
Because those people suck.
Okay.
If you've ever met a nihilist where nothing has meaning, God,
they are, and I think you can reject a lot of it. It's tough. Like for me, I don't believe in the legitimacy of a state. I don't believe in religion either, but I believe in human beings. I believe in equality. And if you want to call that a religion, that's fine. But as far as the supernatural goes, I mean, I have a hard problem really believing a lot of that stuff because I'm kind of like Nick said, I want to see the evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, you ask the question, what would it take to convince you that X is true? I mean, we live in a day and age where if something popped up in front of you that could resurrect the dead, is that an alien or is that Jesus Christ?
Mm-hmm.
It's so difficult to know. And
it's called a Lazarus Project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it could be science. I mean, you're absolutely right. It could be anything, but I think people want to believe in something greater than themselves. I mean,
Yeah.
A lot of us that are within the movement believe in something that is much larger than ourselves.
I don't know that.
That's why we do this.
I don't even know that people want to believe. I've done a lot of reading over the years on specifically human beings believe because they're human beings. Like what I'm always aiming for is I want everyone to kind of have a necessity within themselves to believe shit. I want that to just go away. And I think on a long enough time scale, humanity will give up on the idea of religions and states and all that. That is my, I'll describe myself as an evolutionary ANCAP, and that's what I'd like to see eventually. I think it's going to take a long time, and it's going to require literally the structures in our brains to change. I would say that people like you and me who could kind of walk away from that. I don't know about you. I don't exactly feel any inner turmoil at losing that. There's a peace for me.
For me, it was absolutely peaceful. And the people that I'm working on at work, I tell them the same thing. There's this point where you're rejecting everything that's a part of your identity. And that feels terrifying. Yeah. I mean, it feels like you're in free fall, and it can induce anxiety. But once you get past that and you realize you don't have to remember, okay, I'm a Republican, so that means I'm for small governments, but I'm also for a police force, and I'm also for military, which is the opposite. Or you flip-flop and say, okay, I'm a leftist and my body, my choice, but you have to work for a minimum wage. You've got to keep all these contradictory things balanced in your head, and you've got to remember it all. But when you walk away from it and you settle down on the core principle of don't fuck with anyone, don't take their shit. God, it's so easy, isn't it?
Well, and this is where we would actually kind of listen. I don't think that they are capable of that. I don't think everyone is.
That's true.
I think that some people literally without that thing guiding them, God knows what the fuck they would do. I think that it's just a certain type of person, and hopefully more of us will start existing at some point that can just kind of wipe all that shit away. How's it going? This is Nikki P, and I wanted to thank you for stopping by our neck of the woods. I sure hope you enjoyed listening to Peace Freqs as much as we enjoy making it. Now, as much fun as it is right now, I know it can be a lot more fun, and the way to make it more fun is to grow that community. Unfortunately for us, growing anything organically on the internet is a thing of the past, and as much as I'd like to dump Irma's college fund into growing the show, that would make me a bad parent. So if you want to help create a bigger, more badass community, stop by upgradetheshow.com. We have monthly and yearly fiat options and one-time and yearly crypto options. But don't go thinking an upgraded community is all you're going to get. All patrons of the show get access to the Freedom Choir, chock full of bonus shows, and our Zoom link to watch our interviews live. So head over to upgradetheshow.com and help us upgrade this freaky little community. Now, with the liberty thing, it's interesting to me that we mentioned in the last episode that I'm always fascinated by how many of the people that I tend to associate with in the movement are all Catholics or hardcore Christians. There's a lot of the no king but Christ people that I associate with, and that's not something I would have ever expected to happen personally. But it fascinates me endless, just being the degenerate deviant that I am, how I fell in with that lot.
What's weird, and my original co-host and I, we kind of battled about this. It was one of our first battles, and we ended up actually not producing this episode because of it. But this crowd, and again, I'm not picking on them, will say that I voluntarily choose to follow Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's voluntary, it jives with my political philosophy.
Okay.
And then I'll ask them, when you say taxation is theft, is there an IRS agent sitting there with a gun to your head? Well, no. But if I don't pay, then there's consequences. Okay. Those consequences mean that you are being coerced. Would you agree with that? Well, yes. So when Jesus tells you you're going to burn in a pit of fiery hell for the rest of eternity, that's not coercion? Well, no.
Well, that depends on which version of which version of Christianity you follow anyways.
Well, absolutely. Because there are some that don't include that. There are some that believe that, you could be in limbo and people can get you out of it, or you can get you out of it, or...
I mean, there's also some who believe that, so ultimately the reason you go to hell is because you're going to be with the people like you, and the people who go to heaven are going to be with the people like them. It's not necessarily a good versus bad delineation. It's if you like to rob, cheat, and steal, well, we'll put you with the people that like to rob, cheat, and steal, and that's the world you're going to live in. Like, you want to live life a certain way, we're going to put you with the people that go live a certain way the other way. And it's not even necessarily a moral judgment so much as it is, it's just kind of like, oh, well, okay, kind with kind. So, I've heard a lot of really weird descriptions of things over the years, let's put it that way.
Yeah, a lot of times to me, it just seems like it's like when you're talking to a status and you say this is that, and they go, well, it's for the roads. Or you say it's like an excuse for whatever it is they believe.
Well, and the other thing that we'll say, so it's like you and I look at liberty as being a first principle thing. Like I take my nap and I apply everything to that, so I would include religion. With most people, they'll apply the nap to their religion. And the religion itself is first principles. That's why abortion is such a complicated question, because you have people approaching it from different first principles. A Christian is trying to apply humanity to something that people don't necessarily apply humanity to. And that's the core issue. Abortion will never be solved other than technologically. And the reason it won't be solved is because if they don't consider something to be human, then they don't fucking consider something to be human. That's ultimately the problem. They consider a fetus to be a human as a Christian. People that don't consider that, you now have a religious perspective that you need to fix, and you're not going to. Good luck fixing somebody's religion the way you want to do it. So since you can't do that, I'd recommend donating all that money that you send to Planned Parenthood to science that is helping to make it so that it's less necessary. Go help make it so you can take a fetus out and grow it in a fucking sack, and then it can be adopted by a family who wants it. If you no longer have to abort because you can just have it taken out and grown someplace else, why the fuck wouldn't you? The morality, I believe, of that action will actually change over time once it becomes technologically unnecessary. But throwing money at Planned Parenthood isn't going to help that. It's just wasting your fucking money, because if you don't believe that shit at your core, it's not changing shit. Millions and millions of dollars might scare 4 or 5, young teenage girls not to do something. They'll probably destroy their lives and end up killing the kid anyways, laying around down the road, their malnutrition, not being able to run their life. But we don't have to think about that.
I hate to laugh at it, but it's true.
Well, no, yeah.
You did a lot of picketing, right, Liz?
I did. I was out there and then, have subsequently had to kind of ask myself those questions. Well, if that kid is born in a family, that's not a family, to a person who has no business being a parent, are you helping that person? Where's your responsibility as far as that goes? Because that kid has a horrible life now. Yeah. So it's a complicated question.
Yeah. Technology and adoption regulation are the things that I think need the most changes if you want to help fix the problems.
Oh, man.
It's too fucking hard to adopt kids.
Well, that whole thing into the could fall into your skinwalkers reptilian sort of conversation, because you've got your where do kids go and why are government people ending up with kids who shouldn't be having kids, and
how in the what is it called, adrenochrome?
Yeah, that whole thing.
Adrenochrome. You got some adrenochrome, bro?
I don't even know what it is. I just see it enough in memes that
right.
I know better than to click.
It is I believe it. I mean, it's either something found in or is specifically the blood of children.
Right.
You start getting into an Elizabeth Bathory sort of thing there, though.
Just so many layers of I don't know, that'll get you put on the list if you click on those, right?
Do the kids put out the adrenochrome before or after you have sex with them? I wonder.
I don't know. See, these are questions that I personally don't know if I want to know the answer to.
I'm okay not knowing these answers. I'm okay.
But you're the one that has the podcast that's apparently chasing them down, getting those dissenting opinions.
We'll schedule that one for in the future. How about that?
Right, there you go. Well, I mean, did we ever think that we were going to reach a point when the government admits that they studied alien sightings? You know, they actually had a department for that. They just let that one slip not too long ago.
Yes, of course we believe that was going to happen. They let everything out eventually.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they try to time it so that nobody gives a shit about it when they let it out.
Which is weird considering like the JFK assassination and the 9/11 stuff that still hasn't come out. You got to wonder.
Yeah.
Well, JFK has mostly come out. They just redacted everything.
Yeah. I remember watching that movie for a college class and, you know, realizing that the date when they're supposed to release all that information was actually kind of soon, you know, and being kind of excited, like, oh my gosh, we're finally going to find out. And then, yeah, it was total anticlimax when they released all that.
What do you think is on the video they show you when your orientation for president happens? I think it's just the video of the JFK assassination, but it's got an angle where you can actually see what's happening. And then they just show it and you go, all right, any questions?
This will be you if you don't follow what we tell you to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Because you know what the world believes, and that's clearly not true. So you've seen behind the mask. Choice is up to you. Or do you think it's literally just videos of the aliens? I think that's one of those two options. I think those are the only options.
Why can't it be the aliens killed JFK?
Oh, there you go.
Maybe that is what it is. Maybe it is the aliens killed JFK.
Just all at once.
I mean, it was a magic bullet, right? It defied physics.
Yeah. And that's why people, like, you know, end up looking 10 years older, like after 4 years of being president. Because
it doesn't even take that long. Like, you look older the minute you take the job. Like I've seen, I think even Obama was really obvious. Like, you could look at him before he was elected versus when he actually took office, he'd already changed.
Yeah.
But I've often wondered though, if during the campaign they make them look younger.
Oh.
And then once they're elected, they quit doing some of that.
Oh, interesting.
Really?
Well, it's marketing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
In our culture, youth
That's true. You want them to look vibrant.
they really screwed that up with Biden. But
I don't think there's any help for Biden.
No.
Like, I mean, at this point, they just want to lose the election. Like, they want Trump to be president again for some nefarious reason that we don't understand.
Or they want people to vote for Biden because they, you know, believe in what they believe in, and they want people to make that choice.
No. That's ridiculous. You.
Oh, you'd be amazed the people that I've talked to at work that are just like, yeah, that guy is gonna fix everything because he's that guy. He's on that side.
You mean the guy that wrote up all of the laws that are why police are fucking killing people right now?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing having those conversations. Oh, and I didn't used to have those conversations. This is new for me, being the slightly autistic, like, libertarian person that's like, why don't you see?
Insert autistic screeching here.
How has it affected your personal life, like, when you changed over?
Me? Oh my God, it was dramatic. I lost a ton of friends, but I gained some friends, and it was kind of elastic, if you will, that there were people that ran away as far as they could, but are slowly gravitating back, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I spend most of my day, especially where I work, there's probably about 300 of us that work there. And a lot of them know that I run a podcast and I've got an opinion on anything that's going on. You know, I'm really known to be well versed, and they'll ask me a question or two about what's going on. Most of them disagree, but you can see the cracks kind of for me. And what's amazing to me is the level of conversation that I can now have with people is much better. You know, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I would never be talking about religion. I would barely be talking about politics. Well, now that people know that what I'm going to say is going to piss them off, I assume that they know that, so I don't have to hold back, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
Oh my God.
Kind of if they're willing to start that conversation with you, they know that that's what they're going to get. So
Uh-huh.
you don't have to censor.
Yeah, I'm no holding back. I don't have to juggle any of the principles. This is what it is, and you're probably not going to like what I have to say, but hopefully you can convince me that maybe I'm wrong, because that's kind of what the journey is, at least for me, getting closer and closer to truth. I want to engage people that have differing opinions as much as possible, because I was wrong once. I don't want to be wrong again.
So you're not a postmodernist, huh?
Oh God, no. Reality is not my experience of it.
I'm going to argue with you that reality is your experience of it. That doesn't mean there isn't a truth to it. It just means you can't see it. And that's a key thing that they fuck up. That's why I love Michael Malice's takedown of Thaddeus Russell on it so much.
I haven't seen it.
Because see, the idea, the core idea is that you can never strip away you from the equation. So you're always going to see the world through your lens. And that is something that 200 years ago people wouldn't have ever thought about. But that's something that they did add to the conversation and is, I believe, 100% part of the truth. Like, you can never take you out of the equation. That does not mean that there isn't something real and tangible and a truth to the universe that you can't see unobfuscated. But it does mean that, like, everything that you do is going to be shaded. Now, dipshits like to take that and say, well, that just means there's no truth. I'm like, no. There's maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I couldn't tell you because I can't fucking see it. But more than likely, there's some kind of truth to the world that you just don't understand.
Right. And I agree with that we can't separate ourselves. Our experience of reality is what we know of reality, but there has to be an objective reality. Now, obviously, that's a presupposition at this point. There's no way to prove that because there's no way to observe it without it going through that lens. Like you were just saying, it's kind of like, oh my God, quantum mechanics, for instance, where just the process of observing a particular instance affects that instance. So in that case, I agree with you.
Seen your sad eyes. It's funny how your freedom can change you. You've been wanting stripped away, but I won't blame you for all the things you've been through. It breaks my heart to see you running around with those who cannot see that you were meant for greater things, and the devil is gentle as a lamb. Liars are all such gentlemen. They'll tell you
Do you like your libertarian podcast host leather-clad on a motorcycle running from Nazis in black and white? I'm sure my friend Eric in no way resembles that at all, but his Rebel with a Cause podcast is guaranteed to bring you that same rebellious spirit, bringing in guests from all over the political wheel, bringing with it his own personal blend of irreverence and, dare I say it, down-home charm. So head on over to the Rebel with a Cause podcast and begin your own rebellion against bad podcasts.
I love talking about quantum mechanics because it's just so...
Yeah, we went from lizard people to quantum mechanics. Awesome.
I feel like that's not that big a jump, honestly. But,
I guess it's not.
Well, it's all the things that you know exist. Well, okay, in lizard people case, maybe you don't know that they exist. But all the things that you could posit may exist that you can't prove.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Seriously, though, go look up Thaddeus Russell's most recent appearance. I think it was probably a year ago now on Michael Malice's show. Well, You're Welcome. That's what it is. And oh man, like it's cathartic how badly he smacks him the fuck down.
I'll put it in the show notes.
It's quite cathartic because Thad he's so fucking arrogant. Like, just his attitude pisses me off. Like, I listen to his show occasionally, and like I used to be a big Thad fan because he's probably more in line with my politics than a lot of other libertarians because I don't come from the right. I'm socially a lefty, but man, his fucking level of arrogance push anybody away. I don't know how he maintains that many people that listen to him, because eventually you just listen like, God, dude, could you let your fucking guest talk for a minute? Could you do that?
Stuff to do when you're always right?
Right.
It is. It is absolutely difficult to do when you're always right. And that part of it I understand.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to be honest, is that whole thing was a setup
Yeah.
and you completely fucking missed it.
Oh, was I supposed to be the one that said that?
Yeah, because I routinely fucking overtalk our guests.
Yeah, no, I know, but I was trying to be gracious, and
But I don't do it from a place of intelligence. I do it from a place of comedy. That's my goal.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I want to try and pull the funniest thing they set out and run with that.
Anything for the joke. Man, I miss comedy. Does anybody else miss comedy?
I miss people being able to make it.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I don't know.
And now everything's...
Nothing's funny anymore.
Well, no.
Tom Segura's still making comedy.
The funny things exist. I feel like people they feel like they have to virtue signal to survive.
I miss people being able to make jokes outside of comedy. How about that? I'll say that.
Okay.
Like comedy being a part of everyday life, I miss. It's too dangerous to do that now.
I mean, I work in a blue collar environment. I hear all sorts of off color jokes there.
We do as well. I don't know. You have to wonder, is that a reflection of just our current society right now, where there's just so much negative going on? You just can't relax enough to joke. And there's a part of it that, people are scared to make a joke because you're going to offend a lot of people. But I mean, honest to God, the best humor we have right now is dark humor.
Yeah. Yeah,
truly.
Sure. Well, the world is kind of a dark place at the moment.
Exactly my point. It's a reflection of our experience right now.
Yeah.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I think the left is ready for secession as much as the right is now. That is the only positive I've seen, is that like hardcore leftists are kind of like, yeah, I think we just need to break this shit up. And that's something I've never been able to get out of them before. So you take the positives where you can get them, I guess.
I think there's positives coming. I really do. I think we're going to see a fundamental shift. I don't know if you've ever read The Fourth Turning or listened to The Fourth Turning.
No.
Yeah, that doesn't usually end up good for the people that are alive in that last turning, though, which is us.
Well, I guess it just depends. I mean, as long as we're not the one fighting the war. But, in this case, I don't think it's going to be the traditional all-encompassing war that it has been in all of the previous times. I think we're seeing it on a social level. I think the war is going to be a look at how we organize society.
Well, maybe.
Okay.
I like your plan better than what I'm expecting.
I hope at least that it's going that way. I'm going to do whatever I can to try to nudge it in that direction for as many people as I can. And if any of the listeners haven't had a chance, it's an amazing look at just how little free will we truly do have.
Now, you will be on a list the minute you get that book. Just be clear about that.
Might as well add it to the
If
other.
you're not on the list, you're not doing it right, man.
Right. It's just about anything will get you on a list these days.
I've been on a list for many years.
They keep appending the list for me.
From that first Noam Chomsky book.
Yep, that'll do it.
I mean, they've expanded the things that'll get you on the list so far. Like watching anime will get you on the list. Like being interested in homeschooling will get you on the list. Saying anything about any people of certain genders or non-genders will get you on the list. So.
Oh, as we're recording this, fucking J.K. Rowling is being like raked over the coals and canceled a second time because she's like posting memes on Twitter about like biological women. Yeah.
Dang biology.
I don't know why the left needs to have like biology and non-biology be interfused so much.
I think it's because there's so many people in those circles that kind of, when they split into the postmodern idea, they decided that they were all about science, and now science isn't going along with the narrative that they also need to be all about. So
speaking of which, go back and listen to Free Market Screen Earth episode number 49, where we talk about what will it take for people to believe science again.
That's going to be tough.
Good episode. Well, I mean, it was a question like I'd posted saying, hey, check out, I'm looking for questions for the show for Free Market Screen Earth. And I'm pretty sure he meant it to be an asshole, but the question he asked was that, what will it take for people to believe? So I went through and I just kind of threw up all of the reasons that people don't believe scientists and like the academic studies that kind of go about them. In particular, I mean, like if you go to YouTube, there is a or go on YouTube, go to Wikipedia. There's a page right now called what the hell is it? It's the replicability crisis, and there's a page for replicability crisis, which means this is big enough a problem that it has its own Wikipedia page. And what replicability crisis is, they don't ever bother repeating any of the studies that they do anymore. They haven't in years. So someone has the theory, then they do a study that confirms their bias, and then it's never tested ever again.
Which is was the basis of the scientific method in the first place, right? That it was repeatable.
You test and retest and retest. It has to be repeatable for it to make sense. Well, they don't bother with that step anymore. And so you kind of get thrown into a position where, oh shit, like how is any of this stick when it's failing like the core of what it needs to do?
Wasn't there was a group of people that went around and were publishing, if I remember correctly, false reports and false findings and getting them reviewed in peer-reviewed journals.
Now, technically, that's not what they were doing. Is not in scientific journals. It is in
peer-reviewed
academic journals. Like, so it's because it's all sociological stuff they were doing. And yes, they fucking got a whole bunch of shit published. They got like a chapter of Mein Kampf where they changed the word Jews to women, published in a book. I think the most egregious one was the effect of homosexual dogs at the dog park.
Yeah, that's the main one. That was really funny. And how it contributes to rape culture or something like that.
Yeah, so I did bring that up. But I mean, the basic premise that I have was science is so fucking politicized right now that no one takes basically it would be like the left and the right would normally keep each other in check by approaching science the way they approach science and then like homogenizing what happens in the middle. The problem is the left has basically kicked the right out of science. So the right doesn't get a chance to participate in science. Like and even at that, like one of the things they pointed out, so there's this, depending on how you read the questions, like that whole 97% of climate scientists agree that global warming is man-made and is the primary thing. That's complete and utter horseshit. It's not even close to what the study said that the guy did. I think David Henderson got one of his readers do a study on it, and the guy's like, yeah, it's actually more like 1.6% of people would say that.
Oh shit, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. But like essentially it's a way that you can interpret the questions as a polling person, that you can say you can say it and feel okay saying it even though it's not at all true. And there's like games like that get played. But I mean, and that's even like saying the global warming debate. I had someone talk about how we all need to worry about but why? Why is the Earth being warmer a bad thing? Whether or not it's happening, why? If it is happening, that's fine. Maybe I won't disagree with that. But why is it bad? Human beings tend to work better when they're not freezing. Most plants grow better when they're not freezing. Like, I don't know of anything on this Earth that doesn't do better when it's warmer. Maybe there's things. The
only thing, and this may be my ignorance, and you could probably help me with this. I'd read somewhere that if the polar ice caps melt, that it can decrease the salinity of the oceans and cause some issues. Is that not correct?
Oh, there's tons of issues. I'm sure sure there's probably some animals that might die from a less saline ocean, but do you think that animals that are okay with a less saline ocean? I mean, we have freshwater animals. Do we think that the ocean won't become freshwater fish?
No, I'm just, it's more asking than anything.
I mean, but that's my point. Like, yes, things will change. That's the entire history of everything. But do we think it's going to end? Like, do you think that that's going to be the thing that destroys everything?
Oh, God, no. It's going to be governments that kill us.
More than likely, things are just going to fucking change. More than anything, things will just change. Like, both plants and animals tend to do better in warmer climates. There's things that literally live down in fucking crevices at the bottom of the ocean now in volcanic, like, waste.
Oh, man. Are all those, like, scary phosphorescent fish going to just, like, be hanging out in the ocean?
That would be sweet, wouldn't it?
Or terrifying. I mean, depending on your angle, whatever.
Oh, my God. Like, the anglerfish is the most awesome looking thing ever.
These things are crazy looking. I'm just saying.
I would like to see some of the really big stuff we don't get a chance to see.
Oh, that's when Cthulhu's coming up, don't you know?
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe global warming brings Cthulhu.
Why not? And 2020 would be the year for it.
It's been
that's the plan for September, don't you know?
It's the only year I've ever seen where every month goes, hey, last month, hold my beer. So, Shawn, thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been a wild time. I don't know if we talked about what you were expecting to talk about. I don't know what I was expecting to talk about, but I had a good time. What do you want to leave people with? Where should they be going?
You can definitely check out the podcast. It is Point of Descent. It's available on any of the major platforms. We also have a website. It's still got the old name in it, but it's porcupinepov.com. We upload the episodes there. Sometimes we write articles. Kind of been lax on that, unfortunately, and we also have a Facebook page.
Nice.
Nice. Well, you heard them, folks. Go check out Point of Descent.
Yes.
And enjoy, because I do. I've been a long time listener of the show. I continue to listen. I plan on continuing to listen. Apparently, Liz listens too.
I do. I got hooked. Y'all hooked me.
I think it's all those Evelyn stories of like the PTA and shit that like does it for me.
They do help.
Of nature chances master plan. Fight your programming or you're rat in a box. Pressing buttons trying to loosen the locks. Evil for evil, thoughts can kill. Control yourself or someone else will.
All right, folks. What do you think, Liz? How was the episode? Did you have a good time?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's always fun to talk about random things in loosely related order. So it was a good conversation for that.
And it was random going into this. Like usually I remember bits and pieces when I get to the editing process. This one was just so all over the map. I went into it and really couldn't remember any of the stuff we talked about.
Well, this is like one of the first ones that I did all of my note taking on the computer. So when I drop into Evernote, it's all kind of there in front of me, like the bones of this conversation. And I just, I get that warm, fuzzy feeling like, oh, yeah, we went someplace weird. That's always good.
I like weird places.
Yeah.
God, weird is so my MO. That's why I married you, baby.
Right. Darn right. Yeah. So also wanted to throw it out there that we had some fabulous musical guests. Can we call them musical guests on the show this week?
Okay, Liz, you're acting as if this is something different.
Okay.
Like you're hyping it up. Look, folks.
Well, no, that's not the different part. We thought we'd give them a shout out and say, we had some Zach Kincaid, some John Paul Dove, and a whole bunch of Matt Bankard. Thank you very much, folks, for, letting us share your awesomeness with the awesome Peace Freqs audience.
Share their special goodness, would you say? Sure.
Sounds weird when you say it that way.
Do you even know what the special goodness is?
I don't know. It sounds kind of creepy when you say it like that.
Go look up the song Conquistadors of Nothing.
Oh, good Lord. Okay.
It's Patrick Wilson from Weezer's. He's their original drummer. It's his band.
Okay.
That he had while they were, not doing stuff.
Yeah. He's got a vibe.
He does. Conquistadors of Nothing is actually a really good song.
Huh.
Their music in general is pretty okay. Out of all the bands from Weezer back in the day, like the Space Twins was one of my favorites.
Okay.
Which is Brian Bell, the rhythm guitar player.
Okay.
I don't really worry about the bass player because he's a fucking tool and I've never liked him being a part of the band.
Okay.
And every record he's been a part of has been a disappointment.
Oh, well, that's saying something.
It is. In particular, the original bass player, Matt Sharp, he's only ever put out good material that I've ever heard.
Okay.
I was actually showing Irma some of his work with the Rentals the other day because she likes Starfucker quite a bit.
Huh. Cool.
Yeah, it was cool. So let's not hasten things here because you got to get to sleep. I got to get to editing.
I do.
What I will say is, folks, go check out peacefreaks.com. Spell it whichever way you like. Find the show notes and any other information you'd like to find out about us. You could, I guess, get access. Probably I'll put up our Keybase on there since I moved migrating away from Discord. After they kicked off Ben Pangy, I was upset. People get kicked off things and I just leave them. It's just it's a habit. As I'm trying to find a way to send money to patron nice podcasts that I like, and I always have to ask them, well, how do I do this without Patreon, guys? Get with the program. Nobody uses Patreon anymore.
You're right.
Speaking of which, if you've been following what's going on with Patreon right now?
No, actually.
So Patreon got into some deep water in that. You remember how they kicked off Owen Benjamin and like it was a whole thing?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, Owen Benjamin convinced 70 of his followers to file lawsuits against Patreon.
Oh.
And in California, an arbitration suit, the company has to handle paying for it up front and outright.
Oh, okay.
So that's 71 cases in which they'd have to
fork over the cash, huh?
Lots and lots and lots of money.
I see.
They changed their rules after the fact, but to try and prevent it from happening again. Unfortunately, a judge is like, yeah, no, fuck you guys.
Yeah, no.
Over it. I hope it buries them. They're an overvalued company. The product that they give you is inferior for what's available nowadays. And yeah, their platform sucks. It plays too heavy a hand in what content is on there. I quit the day they kicked off Sargon, and I haven't gone back since. I will go and find ways to send the people I support money, and I could have just kept sending money through them.
Yeah,
but they had to be shitty.
Yeah.
So other than that, I think that's it. Did we cover everything?
Yeah, right on. Yeah, I think so. Thanks for joining us, folks, and make it magical.
Take it easy. This podcast is a proud creation of the Mad Audio Lab. For more information, check out madaudiolab.com. Peace Freqs is part of the Liberty Hippie Podcast Network. If you like what we do, be sure to check out Homesteads and Homeschools, Free Markets Green Earth, Cannabis Heals Me, and This Week in Liberpods. We're living proof that libertarian doesn't mean washed up Republican.